Hi, Bethany. So it's great to have you here. So you're officially the first guest on the show. So everything is new. I know it's like you were actually, that was quite funny because like we were discussing and everyone had their list of people and you were basically on all the lists. And so then we said, okay, it's great. So then we definitely will pick you. And I mean, both of us, we have talked before together about different kind of things. So like when you were exploring some product ideas, you gave feedback on my product ideas, which was super helpful. So this is like, I already thought, okay, this is like the best kind of combination. So I would try to introduce you a little bit and then you can extend it because like I don't really have the full picture. So what I know, so you're the CPO at Kawa Analytics. You're based in London, but you also have a very long history with Tableau. And I even saw a post of you where you said, I love Kawa a lot, but I still are so much in love with Tableau. Yeah.
I do.
So
I do. It's true. You never your first
what
love
can you
stays
add to
with
that?
you forever.
That's true. So was Tableau really like your let's say your kind of first product love?
It's my first it was my first job out of university. I was there for 9 years. Um, I was like first working in the consulting team, so I spent 6 years like working on the front line with customers. So I really became very very familiar with the problems people were solving with Tableau, and then I moved into the product team because I wanted to solve them once and for all instead of doing these consulting engagements where you're solving the same problems over and over again for people. Um, and yeah, the reason I say I love Tableau more than Kawa is because Tableau is built for me. It's like I would say I know like I have the title CPO, but like my
Yeah.
core identity is an analyst. Um, and Tableau is built for data analysts. It shifted the power of data from IT to
Yeah.
analysts. What Kawa is doing now is shifting the power of data away from analysts and into the hands of the business user. So I think a lot of like the analysts, people like me, we've become the bottleneck in a way. And now we need to empower the business with tools to do their own analysis, and that's what Kawa is. It combines the governance, scalability, automation, and security of a database with the flexibility and ease of use of a spreadsheet. So it's the next generation of analytics, and so yeah, I had to join because it's the future. This is where the world is headed.
So you basically want to reduce yourself or remove yourself.
Yes, I mean, I think it's I wouldn't say remove myself from the equation. It's repurposing what analysts
Yeah.
do. I think today analysts are they're sort of building they're building dashboards. They're building kind of analytical applications, and I think in the future the analysts will be responsible for more like building data sets to enable the business user to answer their own questions.
Interesting. So maybe just start there. So how would you see like this kind of future role of an analyst? So what do you think, what kind of data sets are they responsible for? So where can they really bring this value? Because I totally agree. So right now sometimes it's a ridiculous job because like you basically get weird ticket requests, then you try to visualize it, then you throw it over again and you get something back, or something you don't get anything back. So it's not a very satisfying role all of the time. But so how would you see like for an analyst to have, I don't know, more interesting things, or let's say even like, I'm always careful with the word impact, but let's say more impact.
Yeah, more impact. So I think a lot of an emerging area for analysts will be growth teams. Like right now, growth is kind of this function that sits underneath product. But I actually think what we're going to see in the future is that growth becomes this field that sits above product and sales and data and unites the three. And so I think the analyst will be the key role, reporting directly to like the chief growth officer as their stakeholder. And their job is to bridge the gap between product and sales. And why that's a data role is because in product you have kind of your user behavioral data in your product analytics system. In sales, you have your revenue data in your CRM system. In growth, you don't have a system. Your system is combining doing cross-system analysis between the user behavioral data and the revenue data to try to figure out what drives growth. And so that's an inherently analytical role. That's like what analysts are, is like bridgers of gaps in
Yeah.
organizations.
Yeah, I think this is a nice idea. It makes sense. And I guess like when we put this in context to Kawa, it's basically like the analysts are basically preparing the foundation where then like the different kind of people work on top of it, I assume.
Exactly. Yeah. So like somebody has to figure out how do you model and shape and cleanse and match your user behavioral data with your revenue data. That's extremely non-trivial. So that's like what an analyst would do. And then maybe a business user is more like slicing and dicing and filtering and like more basic stuff on top of that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's interesting. So I had the same thought about growth. So that growth basically becomes more important and sits first of all. So I just thought it from the product perspective. So that growth becomes equal partner with product and basically just brings a different side to product, which was at least missing in most of the setups that I had, where product was a lot about user research, user experience. So important topics, but sometimes I always have these, let's say, kind of running gag when I come into client projects and we discuss, okay, what kind of data they need. I ask the question, how do you do revenue? And I often have this situation with product teams that I stare in blank faces. They're like, yeah, we do subscriptions. So yes, but what kind? So do you have special contracts? So do you just run standard subscriptions? Where you focusing on are more like on annual and so on? But this is often missing. And so this was like the logical part for me that the growth team can bring. But I find your idea interesting that growth is even like, let's say, even like a step higher to really like join. To join it. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, if you look at the companies that like dominate the world, they're not great at product and they're not great at sales. They're great at distribution. Like look at Microsoft. Like what does Microsoft, like its products aren't good. I mean, well, they're fine, but like they're not like leading edge. Maybe now a little bit more with like recent launches of the data fabric and so on. But like what makes Microsoft is it dominates distribution. And so like why would you make why isn't there such a thing as a chief distribution officer when that's actually the most important component of the growth of a company? And I think what we're seeing now is with product-led growth, the idea is how do you make your product your distribution channel? And so that's why I see product is like a step below growth, and sales is a step below growth. So that's my ambition for the future, is like I will replace myself as CPO and become like the CGO.
Okay, that's your plan. I think I saw it somewhere that you're already like laying it out a little bit like this. No, it's interesting. I mean, then you would be the first one who's basically like forming this, let's say, new movement. No, but I think it's an interesting point because like I think distribution is really something that most of the people don't really think about. So I just think about distribution because I listen to Ben Thompson's podcast, and it's like distribution, like all the role of distribution is usually like a huge part and everything, where he explains, okay, Google can have problems, but Google is basically on let's say on every device and so on. So they have this huge distribution advantages that they can basically live with all the problems that they might have in between and so on. And so this is really interesting. But when we talk about distribution, so I think this is an interesting topic because like when I work with, let's say, with data products or like with companies who are building these data products, there's this huge discussion. So how you do go to market. So and how you basically do marketing at all, or let's say how do you do growth. And if we take the distribution, let's say as a centerpiece, what would you say is a proper way to create distribution? Because just as a small thing, if I take PLG as my distribution channel, I have to pump it up really significantly to, I don't know, get to good distribution, at least I would assume. And so which can create other problems. So how do you see, so what is a good way to handle distribution for a data product when you're just starting out, and also like when you grow beyond specific kind of stages?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I don't know if I can answer it for data products, but I can answer it
in general. Yeah.
I don't know if I can answer it in general. I can answer it for, why don't I answer it for what we're doing with Kawa?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if I haven't reached the level of enlightenment where I can generalize this for all businesses.
You can just pretend. I think this is totally fine today.
I'll give an example, and then maybe people can extrapolate it to their own use case. But so what we're doing with Kawa is putting the product where the data is, because like it's very difficult today for So let me give an example. So we formed a technology partnership with Harbor. Harbor is a private marketplace for data, and so companies like Moody's, and companies like CoreLogic. A lot of people haven't heard of CoreLogic, but it's like Experian for property data. They like have the 360 view of every single property in the United States.
Yeah.
Whole history of everything that ever happened to like a piece of land. So it's used by like asset managers, banks, like loads of financial institutions for all sorts of like investing and risk management and that type of thing. So CoreLogic and Moody's host their marketplaces on Harbor. We've built a technology partnership whereby Kawa is integrated inside of this marketplace. And so when you're like a bank and you're going into a marketplace trying to find data, you need to do an evaluation to see like what's inside this data set. Does it fit my use case? I might need to join it with some of my own internal data to see what's the overlap between my companies and the companies in this data set, for example. So Kawa will be used as the like exploration tool for doing those data evaluations.
Yeah.
And then for creating customized data products that feed back into the marketplace. And so we have like now access to all the financial institutions in the world that are using Moody's data and CoreLogic data just through this distribution channel. So for us, it's like, it's just free marketing, basically. Like it's, why wouldn't you do this? And I think the problem that a lot of companies have is they're always trying to like figure out like how they make money.
Yeah.
And, you know, originally when we approached this, we were like, well, you know, Moody's and CoreLogic are getting a lot of value out of this because we increased their conversion rate to sales, like in principle. So should we be charging them? And I think what we've arrived at is like, no, this is a distribution channel. Like this is really beneficial for us.
Yeah.
As opposed to something where we try to like make them pay. So I think one of the questions you need to ask yourself is like, who's a customer and who's a distribution channel? And I think a lot of companies just think everybody's a customer. They don't have the longer term vision of like seeing like how increasing visibility through some partner organization could be more beneficial to their business. So yeah, play the long game.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think because you start to think about distribution at all. So I mean, like, interestingly, when I recall my conversation that I had in the last 3 years in this kind of space, no one was talking about distribution at all. So it was always about different things. But it's super interesting too, when you put distribution into your setup, I think you start automatically to see things differently and to judge it. So in this stage where you are right now, so how data driven do you have to be with that?
Like we're extremely not data driven.
Yeah,
not at all. I think it's like in the stage of a company where you're kind of pre-product market fit, it's like stupid to try to be data driven because you have so few data points. And like data doesn't tell you how to innovate, it tells you how to scale. And we're not at the point of scaling, we're at the point of innovating. So we will bring data in when there's like a clear business model and a clear go-to-market strategy, and we want to scale. Like
That's
data is all about optimization from my perspective.
I totally agree.
Like more qualitative, like innovation is more qualitative.
Yeah. But I think I never expressed it so clear like you did in one sentence, like to say, okay, if you still innovate or if you still really figure out what you're doing, at least event data or any kind of quantitative data doesn't really help you. So it can help you a little bit to give some, at least a little bit of light in specific kind of angles. But it's right. In the end, it's more like talking to people and understanding what they do.
And it's also the nature of your business as well. So I think like data is it's way easier to leverage data in a B2C company than it is in a B2B company, because like in a B2C company, for one, you're solving much simpler problems usually. In a B2B like context, you're solving, fairly complicated problems usually that span complex processes, complex workflows. Like the problem spans multiple people in a collaborative organization. In a B2C company, it's like you're often just solving like one problem for one user that's relatively straightforward. So that's one thing, is like the possible paths through the product are way more complex in B2B. But then another difference is like the user is the customer in a B2C context, whereas the user and the customer are usually different people in a B2B setting. And so like the link between user behavior and revenue is like more tenuous in B2B, whereas in B2C, like user behavior does drive revenue like very directly. So yeah, I would say like product analytics to me is like most immediately applicable and most obviously applicable in like consumer facing companies. And then there's more work to be done to figure out like how do we use data well in B2B companies. So yeah, it's a lot more art than science, I would say, in a B2B setting.
Maybe this, maybe I should call myself like this. I am a product analytics artist to some degree, because it's.
I'm curious. I'm going to ask a question, and I'm not supposed to.
Yeah, go ahead. Of course you are.
Do you find that you work mostly in B2C companies or B2B, or a combination of both?
B2B. I don't do B2C. Just for the reason you said, because it's boring. So B2C is
it's templated, like it's
it's a funnel to some degree every time. So it's just a question how you spend the funnel, and then you have to solve other problems. So then you basically, people ask about attribution problems, which is like this extremely hard problem to solve by itself. So B2B is more challenging, as you said. So especially like, because of course you can always abstract things into funnels, and I usually do this as well as some kind of direction, so it doesn't really tell the truth. But in the end, like, this is why I like how you describe it. Is like what I often see, like in the B2B case, is like you have a map of different, or a network of different kind of indicators that can bring something, and a combination of these different kind of indicators can tell you something about your, in the end, lagging metrics, which can be really lagging. So so for example, if you're a sales-driven organization, people do annual contracts, so they do annual meetups where they discuss other things. So all the things that you do in between has to have a long bridge that you can basically direct it to the revenue. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just like because the sales department or the account managers just have a very good connection to the client itself. So maybe the product is not really performing well, but they still keep on because like they just have a good. So two things: either they can have a good connection, or it solves just one thing very good and not the other stuff. And this is often the problem that you have in these B2B products, that because you have different ways how people can work with it, and then to figure out, okay, actually we are solving it, but we don't see it from the data because we are assuming that people have to be active in this area and have to do something here, and then you miss the point that actually you're doing a great job. And this is, for example, why I'm a big fan of really have 50-50, even like when you're scaling up, between quantitative and qualitative data, because I always need this feedback loop. So even when I was in data, so in product, it was natural that I did a lot of interviews to understand stuff, but I still do it in data as well. So when I work on data, because I want to understand, because it's ridiculous. Sometimes it's ridiculous to sit together with a team to discuss where people get value from your product. So you come up with wild theories, and some might be right and some not. You talk to 3 customers and your picture is totally different. And this is sometimes missed out, also like from data teams missed out, because like they think it's not their job. So it's really often not something also where they don't have time to do so. But it's definitely some kind of art. You're right. So to some degree, it's not, you cannot take a blueprint, put it on it, and it works. So
yeah, exactly. I agree.
you talked about product market fit, and you really had some great posts on LinkedIn about how you're measuring the Kawa product market fit. So for example,
the number of meters from the ground that I can take from.
Yeah, or showing up at Bloomberg. So like, hey, I'm here. Is this product market fit?
It's a distribution channel.
It's a distribution channel. But how do you approach product market fit right now? So, or at least like, do you?
It's very simple. It's, can we get people to pay for our product?
Okay,
that's it. That's product market fit. And like, can we get them to pay like what we think the product is worth? That's it. That's how you do it. It's basically, I'm doing sales. That's that's how you figure out if you have product market fit, is you try to sell the product.
This is sad news for everyone out there who's hoping like, maybe I can do it without selling anything, because like it's. But you're right.
You just have to go out there and like actually try and sell your product. But actually, you know what? To be honest, sales isn't about. I think sales is about a reputation. Like everybody pictures like a used car salesman when you talk about sales. Yeah. And then for me, sales is about finding, not about actually selling. Like when we go out, we're looking for like a match, and it's the first customers that you onboard onto your product become your first product managers. Like nothing will influence your product as strongly as like the first customers that you onboard.
Yeah.
So we're actually going out and trying to find people who we want to work with, and who we want to like truly impact our roadmap in a very material way. And so we're working with one customer right now, and like we have a Slack channel, and we basically treat them like our employees. Like they work with our developers as if they're part of our development team, and it's like, it's so good for our product.
Do you control it to some degree so that they are not? This is always like where every like product team is super afraid of, that they are shaping something which is great for them, but maybe not great for someone else. So do you do something in there?
I mean, like we look at the things that they're asking of us for, and it's like, yeah, we should do this. Okay. It's going to help us with every single customer that's similar to them in the future. So there's a lot of common sense that goes into it, I would say. And yeah, just being able to extrapolate, like, is this something that's going to help us scale with like the second and third and fourth and fifth customer? And yeah, the answer is, in the vast majority of cases, is yes. And that's because we've handpicked like the customer that we want to work with, because their use case is so canonical. So yeah,
I think that makes
sense. One of the customers. So I actually went and sought out a customer that I worked with at Tableau like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were using Tableau for something it was not built to do at all. It was due diligence for a law firm. So they were lawyers, and when their clients are like banks, and when the bank goes to sell a pool of mortgages, they need to do all this due diligence on it. Like, does the name of the person on the land registry match the name of the person on the mortgage? For example, that's like a business rule that you need to check. So there's all these business rules that they need to check. to tick all these boxes and say, we've done our due diligence, you can go ahead and sell these mortgages. And it's a data problem.
Yeah.
And it's also a collaboration problem because you have like some things the lawyers are responsible for checking, some things are more like administrative, some things are more operational. So you have this collaborative multidisciplinary team that's all responsible for different pieces of data that all come together in a single file. And they're managing this whole process like they were doing it in Excel, then they were doing it in Tableau, then they outsourced it to a third-party legal tech firm. The problem with that is like then they have to do all this quality assurance because you can't trust a third party with your client-facing work when that's what you're billing. So I went, I contacted this lawyer and I was like, hey, do you still have this problem from like 5 years ago? And he was like, yeah, we do. And I was like, great, we have a solution now. And we're like we really, really want to work with them because if we solve this problem, like our product is already like directionally there, but there's some more work to be done.
Yeah.
If we solve this problem, we're not an analytics product anymore. We're an operational tool for like cross-domain data work. And that's what we want to be.
Yeah, I think this.
So yeah, that's sales.
But the interesting thing is it's not just sales. I mean, in the end, it's really like how to say it? It's early product work, which I think always, to some degree, really goes hand in hand. So and I think what I definitely take away from that is like you pick the right one. I think this is sometimes a mistake. At least I know it. We in some products where I work with, we didn't really pick well, and then we ended up with some customers who driving, let's say, the roadmap because like they were paying a lot of money, and sales team was like very eager to keep them on board, but they were not really like the ideal customer for us. And so I think this was the mistake that we did, to not really make sure, okay, we pick the right ones. And so I think this is good. So how hard is it?
That's part of why we
No, go ahead.
sales. No. Yeah. I was gonna say like a crucial part of our strategy is like intentionally not hiring a sales team, because if you bring somebody on board and incentivize them with a quota, they're just going to try and sell the product to like whoever they possibly can. Yeah. Whereas by having just myself and like the CEO Hussam in charge of sales, we're like extremely diligent in making sure that we want the customers that we're onboarding and that their problem aligns to the vision we want to solve over the next like 10 years, because they're going to be so foundational in shaping the product.
Did you know that you have to do a lot of sales when you started out with this role?
Oh yeah, I knew for sure, because I looked at the team and I was like, okay, the 100% of the team is in R&D. And that's still going to be true when I join. And I'm probably like the most salesy person of the lot, so it's all gonna fall on me.
But it's good. It's good that you thought about it before. So because I'm famous for never thinking about what can come up for me when I join something new. So I'm like, yes, it could have been obvious to me, but I never really think about it. Like, so, oops, now I discover it. So it's interesting. But so I assume for you, it's not really like a problem to do this. Let's say this. And it's not classic sales, as you said. So it's not you don't sell used cars. So in the end, it's quite interesting because like I guess it's kind of a mix between to some degree consultant, I guess, because like you also like try to help them to solve their use cases, then product development, product discovery, and then in the end saying, okay, and we also want to have some money for that. So
yeah, it's you're right. It's like the intersection of consulting, product, and sales, which is the three things that I've done in my life. So it's it's a good fit.
Which is then in the end the CGO. So it's
the CGO. Yeah, it's exactly. It's just the early work of the CGO.
And so, do you already have plans? So let's assume, okay, you meet product market fit. So what is then the natural area where you would say, okay, this is now, so do you immediately go for scalability, or is it more like that you take the same approach but expand, let's say, in different kind of of customer profiles?
Yeah, it's a good question. So like for me, I'm like 100% focused on distribution.
Okay.
I don't love the idea of like now we hire a whole bunch of enterprise sales reps to like go and push the product. I'm like, I want to create distribution channels whereby like Kawa is just integrated in places where data is, and there's like an upgrade flow to go from that application to like an enterprise version of Kawa that enables you to combine data across multiple applications. Because I think one of the things that's so broken today about data is look at like any enterprise application. Take HubSpot, for example. They have an integrated analytics suite. It works well for like SMBs. Enterprises like maybe in like, can do some work in the integrated analytics of HubSpot, but they'll eventually hit a point where it's like, okay, now we need to bring in data from another system.
Yeah.
What do we do? Oh, you go and like get a data engineer, and then they build an integration to like the back end through like some API layer. They do the whole Fivetran to Snowflake thing. Then like the business is like, okay, now there's this huge data warehouse. I can't find anything. So then they slap a data catalog on top of it. And it's like, can you find it now? And it's like, you know, I had the data that I needed right there in HubSpot, and now you've made it so hard for me to find what I was just looking at. Like, this to me, this is insane. And so why isn't it that why can't you just do ETL directly out the front end of HubSpot?
Yeah.
Like in the context of the application. And so that's what we want Kawa to become. It's the interface embedded in every enterprise application that enables a business user to just like do their analysis in place if they're just analyzing HubSpot data only. But the minute that they need to do cross-system analysis, there's a seamless upgrade flow from the embedded version to our cloud version. So that's like when we go to VCs and are asking for money, that's what we're going to invest in, is like the upgrade flow from like the embedded analytics to the
because the interesting thing is because like you think embedded analytics from a totally different perspective than at least right now people think embedded analytics. I would say, let's say from the use cases that I know, it's like this is basically like you do something in Tableau and then you have a script that you can just put into your application, which just pulls the stuff from Tableau or from any kind of other tool and makes a visualization where you maybe also have some, let's say you have 3 or 4 filter options and so on. So I think this is what people today think about embedded analytics. So it's okay, it's fine, but you're totally right. So you missed the point. And I really like this example that you said with the HubSpot thing, because like I have the situations quite often that we have a working setup and then someone runs against the wall and so figures out, okay, there's something missing. We really need to solve this because like it's basically holding us back to do so much things. And then, as you said, in data, this often means it's like that basically the data team disappears for 4 months to build something. Yeah. And as you said, and then in the end it's like, yeah, but it's not really. So it's maybe it's a little bit what I wanted to have, but it sounds super complicated. You have to maintain the whole stuff. It's interesting that you take this kind of approach to really think embedded analytics a step further, where you basically say you act like a system in a system in the end, which abstracts a lot of things. And I guess so. I mean, this is maybe also like interesting because I mean, let's say from the interface, of course, like you work like a classic spreadsheet. So I assume like a lot of thing, or let's say a lot of motivation comes from the point that at some point someone just makes an export from HubSpot into Excel and do stuff there.
That's exactly it.
Yeah,
that's exactly it. Yeah,
the biggest competition for every data product, Excel. So yeah.
Yeah, two things happen. It's like an operations person just exports from HubSpot, and then exports from whatever, Marketo, and like then combines those in Excel, and then that's what their management team uses to run the business. Meanwhile, the data engineering team is doing all this like stuff in the back end, building a data warehouse. Then analysts are putting Tableau dashboards on it. Then like that's being fed to the executive team. So you have like the executive team consuming this data engineering led workflow, and then you have like the middle management consuming these Excel exports. And so like the strategy and operations side of the business are like running off of completely different versions of data. It's insane. Like we want to solve that whole problem. And I think the reason nobody solved it is because they've always viewed embedded analytics as a channel to monetize, not as a distribution channel. For us, embedded analytics is a distribution channel.
That's it's quite clever to do it like this. It's quite interesting. I'm really so my thing is really like, so you post a lot on LinkedIn. So this is, first of all, this is great. No, it's not. Please keep, because like the interesting thing, what you do is like also like in comparison to other people, like you always come up with new stuff. So it's not like that you have one topic. So now you could say, hey, I want to change embedded analytics. So I always post about the, let's say, the problems of embedded analytics. This could be a strategy. At least some people apply this kind of strategy.
This is a better strategy for gaining followers. I would say that.
Yeah.
Topic. That's a very good strategy for getting.
I guess so.
Having a billion topics is a really bad strategy for getting
that
followers.
I guess that's true, and I guess I have the same problem. So I don't really. So I also go too broad. So I like to do so. But you do it even like, let's say, more intensive than I do, because like I usually do 3 things per week. And so you sometimes even have 6 a day where you come up, hey, I have just this in my mind and this is like interesting. So like, and I'm always like, wait a second, I just digested the post that you've written before and to come up with this. So what is like, so in the end, is this something that helps you just to get the thought process working? So to like give it out and get some feedback out, or is this like, so what is your strategy behind it?
Honestly, like I wouldn't say that I have like this great strategy. I think it's like it creates the feeling of having like a large community of colleagues.
Yeah.
I don't know. In my mind, like my LinkedIn network is just like my extended work family. And I'm just like, collaborating with them. That's the way I don't view LinkedIn as like a marketing channel, really. I view it as like just a work community. It's, I have one colleague in the same city as me, and like I'm a very extroverted person. This is a very difficult position for me to be in, when before I had like thousands of colleagues. So it's just this compensatory strategy for feeling like I have this big team of colleagues.
Well, I think it's great. I think we should put it out as a tip for people like struggling to find the right motivation to do something like this. Because interestingly, so I'm an introvert. So I definitely, so if I'm the only person in a town, I'm usually quite happy about that. So, but the interesting thing, yeah. So don't exchange life with me. So I basically moved to a place where I can be, let's say, very much alone. Of course, with my family, but still. Okay. But the interesting thing is like when I was starting out on, and of course, like I didn't have an idea when I started out on LinkedIn to post stuff. But what I think the thing that brought me back and motivate me, and it's still the thing that motivates me until today, is the same thing what you just said. It's like I find people that have similar thoughts, similar problems, or totally contrarian things, but they are open enough to tell me. So like, yeah, it's interesting, but did you thought about that? And these extended, let's say, discussions group or user groups and so on, in full public, I mean, not really like in a closed network, which you also have. Interestingly, on LinkedIn often works even better there to get these kind of ideas. And I would say, since I started out to do this amount of stuff on LinkedIn, I came up with so many good stuff just because I can throw out a thought and then play back and forth with some people, bring it to another level, bring it out again, and so on. I think I made so much progress about stuff that was just circulating in my head alone, because I was always too...
It helps you clarify your thinking.
Yeah.
You have to communicate it to other people.
That's right. And so Yeah, it doesn't give, but I mean, so you still have enough followers, so it's let's say your colleague group is let's say quite extensive too.
I just check and I make sure that like I'm like, as long as my followers aren't decreasing, I'm fine. I don't care. So far they're not declining.
Yeah. I think I had it one time. It was really like a huge drop. I was really quite afraid if I did really something significantly wrong.
Oh
But
no.
I don't know. Maybe they just ran a cleanup job or so. Like I think this is like the nasty things that can just happen. Hey, let's throw out some totally inactive accounts and so on. And you're just wondering, okay, why did I lost, I don't know, 200 followers a day? And so
Yeah.
but I think the interesting thing, this is why I was thinking about LinkedIn is like, so because you said it's, let's say it's not a marketing channel, but the nice thing what you do is like, because you, in the way how you write about Kawa, you just spread your experiences with that. So I'm, for example, someone who's sitting there and saying, put a damn sign up button on your website. I want to try this out.
We're so not product led.
Yes.
My CTO was like, we have too many customers, we can't support them all. No.
Yeah.
We can't.
It's okay.
We need to manage and like tend to the ones that we have like very carefully. So
yeah. But I have FOMO, definitely.
When I demo and give you access, it's just we force you to talk to us if you want. Like we give anybody access to the product. You just have to talk to us, and then we give you access.
Fine. That's fine.
But it's the way for us to find who's the customers we want to have.
Yeah, I think this makes sense, and I think this is why I find this approach also like more tempting than to really try to get I mean, this is so, right. The other approach is like to get as many signups as possible in the beginning, and then once they're there, you try to figure out if they are the right people or if you can really help. But it creates a lot of frustration on the way. So people can come into a product which is half ready or not even half ready, but let's say 20% ready. And so I tried out early stage products, and I mean, I worked in products, so I know that stuff in early on cannot be perfect, but sometimes it really got me away from that. And it really took me some time to get back with these kind of tools after, let's say, 2 or 3 years when they were asking me again. It's like, okay, sorry, it was such an awful experience the first time. And so sometimes it was a huge surprise. Sometimes they did really like such a huge turnaround that it was really great. But yeah.
I think we're not at that stage. So my CTO Manu told me this morning, he's like, Kawa is quite an established product. We have 500,000 lines of code already.
Oh, you do this with lines of codes? That's interesting.
Wow. That's a lot of lines of code. It's definitely beyond an MVP at this point.
No, this is right. I guess I know what he means. So like it's but this, I think this is also like tricky things with these things, because like from what the users see, it looks, I mean, you in the end do an enhanced, let's say from the outside it looks like an enhanced spreadsheet, but let's say under the hood you have to do so many things to make it that simple.
Simple. It's very hard making things easy. It's like we have like a couple of clicks and you get like behind the scenes you're generating like 10 pages of SQL requests. From a user perspective, it's like, oh, I just like did a couple of mouse moves.
Yeah, that's true. I would like to switch to and I was always looking for a good segue, but I don't really find one. But let's do it like this. Switch one, because like we got a really nice question. I think this maybe it's something like more from your general experience. So Anna asked us before, like she asked us a nice question, which at least got me thinking today what I would answer to that. Like, what do product teams wish the data team better understood about them, and other way around? So what is usually like the common misunderstandings between product and data teams, let's say?
Okay, that's a great question. So I think the biggest one of the biggest misunderstandings that of like where product teams misunderstand data teams is in the complexity of change management. So product is always like, let's just add features, more features, more features, more features. And adding features often is changing the schemas of the databases behind the scenes. And the data team needs to then like to just make sure nothing breaks. They need to do so much development work to integrate like the new semantics of the data into the pre-existing workflows. So I think that's like one place where there's definitely opportunity for improved understanding. And yeah, giving pardon me, and the other way around, what do data teams not understand about product? Data teams are often very technical, very in the weeds, and they may not understand the realities of like we need to drive user delight and revenue. And so they like the business impact of the data is maybe like a little bit abstract for them. And so having more, I think sometimes for me, I always try to put customers in front of technical people so that they can like feel the impact of what their work is having on the customer, because they write code faster and when they can see like, okay, this SQL query that I'm coding is actually going to make that person able to do their job faster at the end of the day.
This is an amazing trick to some degree. I had this in one or two companies as well, that we basically when we were working on a client situation, that we basically really had a very hybrid team talking to them, let's say from all the different kind of departments, and the commitment to these things was totally changed. So because like it's quite amazing when a, let's say, data person really understands the pain that, let's say, someone else has. It creates so much more how to say, motivation, empathy, and so on. And so yeah, maybe this is like also like the good answer to that. So like spend more time together. It's
spend more time, literally spend more time together. Yeah. I try and remove myself as a bottleneck between like our engineering team, for example, and the customer. I just put them in the Slack channel together and I'm like, yeah, you kids work it out. I trust you.
It's nice. You can now, so because like now with LLMs, you can even just say, hey, give me a summary of this week of this kind of channel. So everything is still going the right direction. So
yeah.
Okay, so we're already, so I mean, this is really great. So we covered so many things, but I want to at least like close because I like lightning rounds, even when they're often not so lightning, but because like I really like to drop these kind of topics. So let's do this before we close. And so I have some stuff prepared. It's data and it's live related. So so it's not okay. So the first one, of course. Okay, no, but let's see. So best data visualization tool.
Oh. Tableau. Easy.
Yeah, of course. But I was surprised if now something else was coming up. just for the sake of it. But okay, just maybe let's say in 3 or 4 sentences, why is Tableau still the best visualization tool or analyze tool?
It's because it's created a language for visualization. Like everything else is template based. It's like pick a chart, whereas Tableau is, it's like decomposed visualizations into their essential building blocks of like, you know, like axes and position and size and color, and then you can construct any visualization at all through this language.
Interesting. I never saw Tableau like this.
Yeah, it's actually, a lot of people think Tableau is a product, and it's actually a programming language.
Okay, now you make the product a lot more attractive to me. So because like
I mean, it was a research, it was a PhD thesis.
Okay.
That became a company.
Yeah, sometimes it's really good to know the whole history of a product, because like it can explain so many things that you later on it's not like obvious visible anymore,
Yeah.
but it still is driving so much things. Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Next one, the last thing where you have changed your mind. So something where you were convinced A, and then you thought about it and say, okay, no, actually it's B. I know this is a lot of one.
This is, should we hire a salesperson? I flip flop on this daily. I'm like, yes, we definitely, like, I'm like, we're drowning in leads. Like, we can't possibly like work all of these accounts. We need a salesperson. Like, yes, 100%. And then the next day I'm like, no, but like we need to we have to own it because it's a pre-product market fit company, and we need to decide who we want as our customers, and like, you know, we need to put the effort in the ones that we want to drive our roadmap vision. And I flip flop on this all the time. Today I'm strictly in the camp of like no sales.
Yeah. So we already recorded that, so that's great. So yeah, I will ask you in some weeks again. So
Yeah, it's been some weeks. It'll change.
okay, so the other one, I mean, you already gave a different answer to this, but let's try that as well. So like chief of data or chief of product, or like CDO or CPO.
What's the question?
No, what you take if you have to decide? Would you be the CDO or the CPO? Let's say in a more established.
Oh, I would definitely take CPO.
Okay.
And the reason is, like a CDO, in my view, is like they're like set up to fail largely because.
Very good friend of mine just became a CDO, so I will just take the sound.
Oh, no. Well, so here's why. Let me explain.
Yeah.
CPO has the technical counterpart of the CTO that they work really closely with. Whereas CDO is like they're technical and business in one role. It's a scope that's like too huge for one person. So, I think the counterpart to the CDO that doesn't exist yet is the CGO. Like if you had a CDO running like enterprise data platforms, working with this chief growth officer, doing all of the kind of cross-department stuff from a business perspective, then it would be like a successful partnership.
Yeah.
So I think like CDO becomes an interesting role in the world of a CGO, where that exists as well.
Very, very interesting take. Texting or talking?
Talking, 100%. Okay. But that's just because I'm like a very extroverted person. So yeah.
I mean, it's still true to myself, but I definitely have phases where I 100% prefer texting. So it's just switching. So like from day to day. Will SQL go away?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Why not? So I mean, we can count the number of posts where why SQL is dead.
Like, tell me why you think it's going to go away. Like, I've heard like this theory that like ChatGPT is somehow going to make SQL go away, and I'm trying to understand how, because all of the data in the world is stored in SQL databases.
Yeah, so I think the whole take is ridiculous. Of course, SQL will not go away because it's basically the interface language to talk to a database, and it's pretty efficient. It's not there for people and really nerds.
50 years now.
Yeah, 40. Yeah, I was just thinking about like 40 years. I think it's even longer. So I think it's even longer. So, but let's say established like this 45 years. And it would be ridiculous. So, but what I can definitely see that we are layering more and put more stuff on top. So what you do. So this is definitely layering. So you hide away the complexity so like this, where I was highly skeptical, and it definitely didn't went in this direction, was this take. I think it was around there for 3 or 4 years, where they say really good people in every company have to learn SQL to do proper jobs, and that was not something that I bought. So I say, okay, a really good brand person is a really good brand person, and so they don't have to care about that. And I think this is the interesting time what we have right now, that we put stuff in between to even help a brand person who's really good to do some data stuff. And I think this is the interesting thing.
Yeah, I think the number of people who need to know SQL will decline because tools like Kawa, tools like Kubit abstract away the SQL. But I think the databases will still communicate in SQL.
Yeah, So it would be like if you would take away, I don't know, C under Python or so. Like it I don't know, it doesn't make sense. So, but it looks like it's still, people think it's a valid marketing strategy. So I don't really get why people still think that claiming something dead, like dashboards are dead, blah blah blah, is dead. It's like, well, it's the same what you just said before. It's good to get followers, but definitely not good to make business, at least in my.
It's not. Yeah, these are claims made by people who aren't trying to sell their product.
No.
They've made selling somebody else's problem.
Yeah. I don't want to even go into what they're trying to do. So it's still, interestingly, it's still the stuff that can make me really angry. It's not so many things still, I would say, that make me angry, but this stuff really so it triggers me. This is really like, I really have to withdraw myself from the keyboard to not answer something. I don't know. I usually don't comment.
It's good that you have that self-discipline, Timo.
No, not all the time. I sometimes do it. So so let's put it like this. If it's really hard take, I do it in a direct message. I say, okay, sorry, this was totally over the top. And so please stop this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, final one. Favorite city?
Oh, I think I've got to say London.
Yeah,
just because that's why I live here. It's like, that's why I've never left, is I love this city. It feels like just such a global hub.
Yeah.
Like, part of what I love about London is that nobody here is from London. It's just like a global city.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so I can definitely tell. So, I mean, I live now really like in a very remote place, at least in Europe, so northern Denmark, so not so much here. And London is like the place where I usually try to go at least once a year.
Well, you need to let me know when you're next year.
Yeah, no, I might come in August, so I will let you know. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation. I have to say, I was nervous. I was like, he's gonna ask me about like CAC payback periods or something.
Oh yeah, no, this was my other script that I had as well. So like,
for tomorrow.
hardcore metrics talk. So let's discuss like really like the nitty gritty of a specific kind of metrics and so on. Like, yeah, no.
I was worried. I have to admit.
Sorry, maybe I should really share a little bit more up front, but I wanted to make it, let's say, as natural as possible. It was.
It was as natural.
It was. All right. Thank you a lot.
Thanks everyone who joined.
Yes. And thanks everyone who joined. And thanks for commenting. It's always great to get some comments in between, because to just see, okay, people are not basically saying, okay, sorry, we cannot follow anymore. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Right. And so good evening, good day, wherever you tuned in.